Hello, this is Adam Daniel with the Eco News, the good, the bad, and the ugly, where we share 3 current events in the world of nature, ecology, and our environment. One good, one bad, and one downright ugly. This the only news where you can get one good story for every 2 bad ones. And this week it's a deep dive into the far-reaching new directive in Europe, the circular economy, and how China flipped the script on the US and Europe. On July 3rd, 2021, the European Union is poised to ban the top 10 single-use plastic items that litter their beaches. In the EU, these 10 use and toss items and fishing gear account for 70% of marine litter. It's bad for the environment, wildlife, it's an eyesore and a detriment to tourism. Let's be real, who wants to go to a beach that looks like a landfill? This comes from a directive passed in June 2019 by the members of the European Parliament by an overwhelming majority in favor of addressing the plastic waste problem. These 10 items include, and they won't disappear completely, recyclable versions will be required. The single-use plastic ban on said items is a 2-pronged tactic to reduce the growing trash problem and to get to the root of the issue by pushing towards a transition to a circular economy. Society's transformation from a linear economy to a circular economy is going to be one of the most large-scale changes we witness in the upcoming decades. Consider it the next industrial revolution, or the next phase, aka Industrial Revolution 2.0. What? We already had that. Industrial Revolution 3.0. Industrial Revolution 4.0, depending on who's counting. We're talking cars, clothes, roads, phones, decor, homes, agricultural, toys, you name it, everything in the kitchen sink. The name of the game at its core is to design to have continuous loops, even across different business sectors, to reverse engineer and look at our methods of manufacturing to make them more logical, efficient, and less wasteful, to design end products that can be reutilized at the beginning of your process. You can't treat a closed finite system like an infinite system without huge and dire ramifications, log jams, and failures. This is why sustainability is such a hot button topic. Most of our current production systems are linear, like take, make, waste. The idea is economies will run more effectively and long term by closing the loop and becoming circular systems. There's so many externalities, costs not accounted for, and tragedies of the common and present with these short-sighted systems. And this ain't some hippy-dippy hold hands and sing kumbaya type of thing. It's innovative technological solutions to some of the biggest logistical problems today about resources, manufacturing, processing, and pollution. If instead of creating waste, a company reutilizes 50 to 100% of its raw materials to remake things, it's a fine-tuned, cleaner system. It's more profitable, resilient, and adaptable. Hennings Wiltz of the Wuppertal Institute added in a Yale 360 article, Europe is a continent with few raw materials like oil and metals. So a recycling industry that circumvents the need for virgin raw materials is an industrial strategy as much as an environmental program. We're talking about biomimicry, modeling processes similar to how they're done in nature. An ecosystem reuses and resources its products and disassembles them into raw materials again and again. Kids learn this at a young age through food chains and the Lion King hit. Plastics are one important piece of this circular economy puzzle, but a plethora of products and raw materials will be utilized within the circular mindset. It will promote resilience, generate new opportunities, and benefit society. So let's look at some examples before digging into the plastic paradigm shift in Europe through some of our most well-known clothing and shoes manufacturers. Disassembly means a material is a perpetual commodity. It has residual value. Liabilities become assets. You resource your resource. Designed for disassembly, a clothing producer has learned that they can take a textile, polyester, and make a suit and then break it down into its primary components and remake it.
Industrial revolution was started with the textiles. So we are stating, okay, we are from textiles, let's start up a new revolution with textiles. So we had to show that it's possible to make a raw material that's recyclable 8 times. We have to show that we can put it into the market, and we have to show that we can track and trace it. And
Nike has a similar method for creating shoes from waste, aka trash, leftovers, and plastic. It's not their main method of production, but it shows it can be done, and they want to reduce waste and integrate non-virgin material into more and more of their products.
We kept going back to this phrase called in situ utilization.
There's this idea in space exploration that if you're going to fly to the moon, fly to Mars, and stay there and do something, you have to create things with what you find there. Say there's no resupply mission coming to Mars, there's no resupply mission coming to Earth either.
Noah came in, one of the great insights he had was, hey, what do we have around?
What if waste becomes our future feedstock? What if it is actually the material that we use?
We are working on what it means to create a fully closed-loop economy.
Reuse of materials so that we aren't causing more damage to the planet.
Sustainability at Nike is not new. We divert over 1 billion plastic bottles a year.
And so there's this duality of high performance but low impact.
I mean, a quick look at Nike's circular design website shows just how scientific and problem-solving oriented this initiative is. From material choices, cyclability, waste avoidance, disassembly, and green chemistry, this is sophisticated engineering. Companies will be working towards circular initiatives as well, where you can send your old sneakers or clothing back in to be returned to the manufacturing cycle. For example, Adidas is doing this with their Future Craft, or made to be remade kicks created from ocean plastics. And it's not limited to just shoes. Material for buildings, fabrics, and even coffee is being reused. Ford is making car parts from used coffee, and a German company is making dishwasher-safe coffee cups made from old coffee grounds. Even Pepsi commits to 100% recycled plastic bottles in 9 EU markets by 2022. The diameter of the circular economy is far-reaching, but at the moment, they're outliers, not the norm, like any technology on the edge of the mainstream and standard operation. And this shift is much deeper than just reduce, reuse, recycle. That's still more like downcycling or cradle to the grave mindset, not to be confused with the Jet Li and DMX movie.
Let's get it on.
Things are moving towards cradle to cradle. Check out the book Cradle to Cradle, Remaking the Way We Make Things for more clarity on this important distinction. So, what's the motivation? What's the science? The oceans and world are becoming trashy, and we are running out of room to put stuff.
I'm not hoarding anything. I'm collecting things.
It also speaks to the gigantic amount of single-use plastic created from this lazy, linear mindset of our economy. I think it's beyond difficult to wrap our minds around and fathom that we're working with limited space. It just feels so big. Could it really have limitations? Yes. We're largely a throwaway culture, and necessity is the mother of invention. As the creative project manager, Sukinya Gay from the Ellen MacArthur Foundation so succinctly put it in a TED Talk,
it was a waste to waste waste.
She goes on to say if waste had value, we wouldn't throw it away, but we'd use it, return it, and sell it. As part of the EU Directive, all plastic packaging must be recyclable by 2030. At the moment, only about 40% of that is so in the EU, much better than the poor 14% in the US. And waste isn't always necessary. It's a design flaw, but our minds aren't used to that. And the silver lining and true beauty of this new industrial revolution is this will be profitable, monetarily and beyond. It will create jobs and reinvigorate industry. It hits the triple bottom line, profits, people, planet. And at first, this appeared to be a very altruistic and beautiful move by Europe, and while it definitely is a good thing, I ran into a telling motivator and catalyst. In January of 2018, China began the National Sword Policy. What is the National Sword, you ask? Well, before 2018, 95% of the plastics collected for recycling in the EU and 70% in the US were just sold and shipped to Chinese processors where they were repurposed. Why worry about it when you can just send it to China? The quality of what China was receiving started lacking from single-stream recycling contamination, and they finally said, enough. You shall not pass! They had no real motivating factor to create their own infrastructure or national markets to deal with the issue. Talk about passing the buck. I mean, imagine you can always get rid of your trash like we can now from your house. Suddenly you're forced to have to keep it. What do? You don't have a system to deal with that. It's happening on a country scale. In 2018, China stopped allowing mixed plastic or that of any quality to be shipped to them. But as of January 2021, China is no longer accepting anybody's waste, but they do take scrap metal still. This is a big deal. Our need will be the real creator. In a pinch, a good use of our wits may help us out, as old Aesop taught us. So China, no longer being the world's biggest importer of trash, has giant garbage-sized ramifications. 35 seconds of puns, please. It was a sharp move on China's part. It will cut down on one of their problems and cause logistical nightmares for many countries who grew dependent on dumping their recycling in China. But this challenge will also provide opportunity, and countries will be forced to take a stab at it. The SWORD program will indubitably produce cutting-edge solutions. Sure, the SWORD program is causing division over sorting protocols, but it was a pure stroke of genius in many ways. No matter how you slice it, this problem is stinky. Okay, cut. Now that China has banned sending that crap to them, plastic pollution and waste is stockpiling in the US and the EU, and it's high time the world gird their loins and start creating better programs. Recycling centers are struggling. At first, more was just sent to landfills or incinerators and burnt, but that isn't a long-term solution. It's exposing the dirty underbelly of our out-of-control consumption. Parts of the Europe and the US shifted to sending plastic to other developing countries, but they soon became overloaded with the excess supply. So another part of this new EU directive forbids them from shipping their nicely sorted plastic waste to developing countries where it was sometimes burned, unsorted back into landfills, or even tossed into the sea. Say what? Collect, sort, export may be a thing of the past and further catalyze circular economies. The EU is taking the creation of a circular economy very seriously, and plastics are at the center of it, said Henning Wilt, the director of the circular economy at Germany's Wuppertal Institute for Climate, Environment, and Energy. I applaud China for saying we won't take your waste anymore. Out of sight, out of mind, delayed sustainable industrial design far too long. This ban is a needed catalyst to wake up the West to the insatiable appetite of poorly designed things. Facing the mountains of our mess, adapting domestic recycling programs, and a deeper circular economy are necessary. In closing, the Industrial Revolution changed life as we know it several hundred years ago. Machines changed the game, becoming more efficient at taking raw materials and utilizing it. Now we are entering a new phase, one of resiliency and adaptability of what we consider raw materials, and how we reuse and resource materials again and again. Life is not linear, especially on a system level. It's circular and requires creativity. Out-of-the-box thinking, innovation, and technology are perhaps only limited by our willingness to stretch our minds. We are limited by space and by finite or limited amounts of resources. It's a step, an advance in a circular plastic program to curtail single use and be more sustainable. Common sense ain't too common anymore, because this sounds beyond logical. What are the standards of an advanced, developed civilization? Gross inefficiencies don't sound advanced to me. We can have self-driving cars, robot vacuum cleaners, and computers in our pockets. But what good is it in a wasteland? This is all part of a next wave of what do we do with all this stuff and waste. The glazed plastic eyes of consumerism stare us down, and we have to ask ourselves, will we drown in our own trash or redesign and build our way out? This is Adam Daniel, live with the Eco News, the good, the bad, and the ugly.